Hi, this is Jeff Tice, and we are in Module 4 of the Deep Dive panel series with the META Social Equity Program. I'm very excited for this particular discussion. We've got a great panelist in Khadija Adams, and I'll introduce her a little bit more in just a moment. But first, you know me, I've been involved in the program, in the social equity program, since the beginning. Worked very closely with META to develop the curriculum, and other than Caleb, I'd say I've done a lot of work, and he's been the point guy. Well, today, just one thing, I wanted to thank all of our sponsors. They've been very generous. They've been very supportive, both during the panel discussions and supplying experts, and then also follow up with some of you that have reached out to them for additional assistance in moving through the program. So we're very grateful for that. As I said, today, we're going to talk about financing your project and where to secure financing. And to me, it's one of the most important topics or things that you should really be thinking about as you move towards or through the application process and think about the next step. Also, we'll be talking about within that topic, budgeting, something called burn rate that we'll talk about just briefly, and then interest rates, funding options. Of course, we want to get into that, and also the fundraising mindset. And fundraising mindset is a fun one, but that gives me a very nice transition into introducing our main panelists, so solo panelists and most important panelists, I should say. But Khadija Adams is the founder, CEO of an organization called Khadija Adams LLC, who specializes in funding and in helping startup early stage companies get organized, understand what it means, all about funding and the topics that we're going to cover during this time period. And so it's a rare opportunity for me to have her background and experience and insight into the process. But Khadija, thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate you, Jeff.
Wonderful. I guess I want to start out with that phrase, a fundraising mindset. And why do you think that should be first on our list as we talk about funding?
Well, I tell you, mindset is just, one of those things that you really have to focus on no matter what you're doing, but especially, when you are raising capital, you have to be optimistic. You have to, be positive. You have to have that abundance type mindset, right? One thing I know for sure is that mindset plays an important role in fundraising. Mindset dictates behavior, and behavior really impacts your outcome. So if you're one of these people that, well, let me just give it a try, then 9 times out of 10, it's not going to work for you. But if you're one of these people that is in love with not only your product, but your company's mission, right? And you have a passion for it, you're going to be excited to tell people about it. Whether they invest or not, you're going to be excited to just get the information out with anticipation of them investing. And so it's really about having that positive mindset and that stick-to-itness as well.
Great comments. And I might share with everyone that the first time I met Khadija is that's what attracted me to her thoughts and her insight. It was that excitement, that mindset that said, I can do this. And if you notice, look over her shoulder just a little bit, Khadija, your right shoulder, and girl, get that money.
Yes.
And I like that byline for a moment because it ties right into that mindset in think about different bylines that you've seen about helping people process loans. Loan process assistant, snore. Or we have loans available, or things like that that you see as the advertising hook, so to speak.
Mhm.
And your byline is so very positive. It's active oriented. It has the mindsets.
Yeah, yeah. Girl, get that money. Like, I mean, it says it in a nutshell what I do, right? I get that money
Right,
and I teach other people how to do the same thing. So you're absolutely right.
right. Another thing I want to talk about just for a moment is over your left shoulder. That's a that's a fantastic saying. It is because in I'll call it competition. If you're watching the basketball game tonight, or if you watched golf, you see calmness. You
Mhm.
see, and they're professionals and they're focused beyond belief. And the reason I like that so much is you improve or increase your value and or power, if you will, in being gentlemanly, ladylike, but you're thinking about how to get the kill.
That's right. That's right. Act like a lady, think like a boss.
I like it. I like it. Well,
Thank you.
that's great. So we've talked about mindset and why it's so important
Mhm.
as we're just moving into again this budgeting and where do I get some money. But if I'm going to finance my project, or I'm thinking I want to finance Khadija, I guess the question is if I don't have any experience and I'm looking out and say, I qualify, I'm a qualified applicant, what are some things mentally, because I'm not ready even to pick up the phone, am I?
Well, there's a lot you have to do first. First of all, in some cases, right, especially in Arizona, you want to pick up the phone first to find out, how you get qualified as a social equity applicant. And if you are, or if you are aware of how, what the criterias are and you meet that criteria, then I believe the next step would be to form your corporation. But you want to make sure before you do that, you have a consultant, that you have someone who is familiar with the laws, who's familiar with licensing, who's familiar with the social equity criteria and guidelines, someone who can walk you through that process, right, of establishing your company, helping you write your business plan, helping you write your marketing plan, your strategy, and things of that nature.
Those are some great points. Let me make some comments also. As you most of you know, I'm a CPA, says there on my name, and so I help people at times if they want to organize a company or talk about what their thoughts and plans are, and creating an LLC is a simple and extraordinarily complex process all at the same time.
Mhm.
And it's very easy to go and pay a fee and commit yourself to certain things. It's a little harder sometimes if you haven't thought it through.
Right.
And Khadija, a big, not a big, but a portion of your advisory services, you do help people, organize and create that. What are some of the things you ask them to do in preparation for that?
Yes, absolutely. The first thing that I want them to do is to really know what it is that they want to do. They have to have a clear understanding about what it is they really want to do. Um, when I started in this company, in this business, I should say not the company, but in this business, I would have entrepreneurs come to me and they would have one idea and then 100 ideas, and they wanted to implement them all.
Right,
and
right.
I like them to focus on one, right? Know exactly what it is that they want, and what it is that they want to accomplish, first of all, first and foremost. And then secondly, I have them really write out an outline. If they don't have a business plan, I help them write out an outline so that we can now create a plan based on that outline. And so that's one of the first things that I have them do, along with, I have a questionnaire that they have to complete. And in that questionnaire, by the time they finish that questionnaire, they pretty much have a good understanding about, what it is they want to accomplish. So
You raise a really good point. I mean, 2 points is we all in varying levels need a coach.
yeah,
Doesn't matter how good of a player we are, right? We get a coach, even the best
absolutely.
players.
Hey, man, Oprah has coaches.
That's right. That's right. And I really like that you have a tool because you've worked in this area. I've seen a lot of different approaches and helped people. There's different ways to have people think about the questions when they're creating the company, but your tool forces that thinking process. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, absolutely, it does. It really does because when an entrepreneur knows what they want to do, or when they're asked specific questions, right?
Hmm.
It gets them to thinking before they answer those questions. And in most cases, they're able to identify what it is that they want to do, or if it's something similar, that they can talk about. But by the time I get that questionnaire, I pretty much have a good understanding about what they want to do.
To some of you, this may seem almost like your math classes back in high school. You had to go through these exercises and you asked yourselves why. You ask
Mhm.
yourselves why, and part of the why or answer to the why is ultimately whether it's a small amount of money or a larger business as you grow, you'll need to express your ideas and vision to those that you want to invest in you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the best way to do that is to have a good understanding of what you want, right? Because you're
Right.
able to now relay it, to investors. You're able now to, have a pitch, if you will, and participate in a pitch, because you can actually say what it is that you're doing, and outline, where it is that you want to go and how they benefit.
That's right. For everyone to think about as you're wondering where do I go or what kind of thoughts there. The advantage again of using certain tools and going through the planning process helps to simplify a lot of the questions as they come up, because is my plan to create a multifaceted business and that I can pass on to generations. If you were so lucky to be awarded one of the licenses, or is your plan different? And everyone has some different plans. That's
Absolutely.
so ultimately, really, what you're saying is whether you do it yourself or whether you reach out and find, as you say, a qualified professional.
Mhm.
Qualified's important
Yes, that's right.
because everybody may say they're qualified, but it's very important to differentiate.
Well,
Well,
it really is. You want to make sure that whomever you have chosen, they have experience, they've had success in it. I like to say visible success, social proof. Maybe they have customer testimonials, that you can actually tap into and call and ask them how is their process, how was their experience with this person, et cetera, et cetera. And, but you definitely want to make sure that the person has the experience for sure.
right. The difference in the cannabis for everyone, cannabis industry, is because of the compliance, because of the regulations, the partners tend to have to be closer together, which
Mhm.
can be a wonderful thing and it can be everyone's nightmare. Because sometimes partnerships just come together for convenience. Sometimes partnerships come together because everybody's known each other all their life. They work together and, things work out. And I've experienced all of the above. I,
Okay.
I've had partnerships from hell. So, we can talk about the selection and being mindful and planning, but also know that you can plan for 999 things and it only takes one to mess it all up. So,
Oh, absolutely. And that's why it's important that whomever you choose, when you're choosing a team, first of all, we have to know, and the entrepreneur must know that they can't do this by themselves. You need a team. You need someone who's going to, to guide you, someone to help you navigate through the waters. And more importantly, you definitely need to have a team, whether it's a good attorney, like you, a good CPA, a good consultant, a business coach. You have to have a team.
it's a great point. And especially, again, I keep emphasizing we call it the transactional or regulatory framework of cannabis. And because it is so complicated and exacting, meaning just a word or a comma. And in the applications, if you forget something, they could cancel it, throw it out, because the state just checks boxes sometimes. And so that's what we're trying to walk through some of the, we'll call it the foundational stones, so that it's in place when you get to the application point.
Absolutely. You have to have a solid foundation.
All right, so we're going to talk about budgets just for a moment, in a fairly simplified manner, because we're preparing for phase one of the application process.
Mhm.
We don't know if we're going to get the award at this point, and so it doesn't make sense that we do a budget for a cultivation facility or a retail outlet. For everyone on this panel discussion, the important part is we're probably going to spend less than $10,000 on this application, I would hope. And so there's this secret answer: is in your budget, the total shouldn't be more than 10 grand.
Yeah.
Unless well, I'll take that back. If you hire professionals for everything, it will be significantly higher than that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, when you are, I've seen in many cases in other states, when applicants, when you go to apply, the key really is to win the license, right? And to make sure that you have the requirements. And that's why it's important to hire the right person to help you with that application process. And they will help you understand what is needed and how to put together a budget.
Exactly. I always like to say we don't want to over-engineer it. If you're putting together a doghouse, it's not a piano. we don't need to use fine woods. But if I was thinking about it, I'm looking out. I would presume you've got some clients that are thinking about this process. What are 4 or 5 things that you would want them to think about, just to put together a simple budget?
Well, a traditional budget, of course, is what your estimated revenue, your fixed costs, of course, or variable costs, or not really your expenses, but maybe your one-time expenses.
Yes.
Cash flow, and of course, profit.
So let's narrow down the time period. I think initially we're going to do a budget for. It's between now and we'll call it December 31st, because then your application is in.
Mm-hmm.
And so if our application is in, we know we're going to incur an application fee, and we can figure that maybe some legal fees.
Yeah.
But I don't mean to throw a number out, because what would you tell someone if you wanted a full service application assistance?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a number we could share on here? That someone not necessarily, I'm not in the application business,
Well,
so I don't know.
I'm not either. So I don't help with the applications and things of that nature. What I basically do is I help put together the business plans, the marketing plans, the marketing strategy. I help you build your team, which means vetting qualified professionals within the cannabis industry. And I make sure that they're vetted. They have the criteria, they have the know-how, right, to get
Right.
you to where you want to go. There's a young lady that I have on my team who has helped with over like 5 or 6 different licenses, so I pretty much send them to, so it's not something that I do, it's something that she
Right.
does in her company, and we've actually partnered to make that happen.
So you bring up an excellent point for
Mhm.
everyone to think about, is Khadija has experience in this industry. Khadija does a lot of business development things and helps executive teams and management to be more efficient and improve their business. But you clearly articulated that you know what you don't know.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and I don't have to, because
Yeah.
the smart thing for me to do is to partner with the people who have the experience so that they can do it, and so that's what I've done, and I make sure that I have people, anything that I need or want to help grow a business, I make sure that I have the right people in place in order to help me help them do
Right.
just that. Yeah.
Yep. So who do you go to when you want a little help looking at your burn rate?
Yeah. So when you want a little help looking at your burn rate, first of all, most people don't know, especially new entrepreneurs, what a burn rate is. It's basically the monies that you're spending before your company even makes a profit, right?
Right.
And so you want to make sure that you keep up with that. You want to speak to your CPA. You want to talk to your, if you have a CFO, right? If you have someone in that department, you want to speak to them so that you can budget out and make sure that you're not overspending. Because if you use all that money before you have money coming in, you could very well go out of business, right? But if you use that money wisely while you're raising, you build trust with your investors. Now they're willing to give you more money because you didn't go overboard. You used it for what you said you were going to use it for. At the same time, you were growing, right?
Yep.
And so I think it's important to make sure that you're speaking to the right person on your team. And in my opinion, that would be your CPA, that would be your CFO. I'm sorry, your chief financial officer as well.
We'll take both hats.
There you go.
Well, let me ask you a question though. Most folks listening right now, they don't have a CFO or a CPA, but I'm going to say that as an alternative, most folks, and you'd have to tell us how you help the new business person that may not have all these tools. But I would say if you have Quicken or some other financial software, you can do a budget. There's only
Oh
five or
yeah,
right?
absolutely. You absolutely can. But I've partnered with CFOs and who are what I call contract CFOs.
Yes.
Who have the experience, and I've contracted with CPAs. I have a whole repertoire of professionals that I've contracted with. So if they're not a do-it-yourself type of entrepreneur and they do want someone who focuses just on those skills, then I do give them that option by providing them with at least 3 referrals that they can call and interview and see if they fit.
Which means, as for everyone, as you're going through this process, initially, that's why we started with a budget. We're not talking about where any money is or funding, because in order to get funding, the first question I've ever heard from investors or banks or those folks with money is, how much you want and what are you going to use it for?
Absolutely. And you have to have a definitive number.
Right.
You can't say, well, I think I need about, you have to say, I need 500,000 or 1 million or 2 million, and I intend on using it for XYZ. And you break down what you intend on using it for.
Right. Because we're going to talk about a lot of macro or micro loans here, if you will, because that's meaning this is a smaller project. For everyone applying, the minimum number that it would take to apply if you didn't pay anyone and you had a lot of expertise is $5,000, right?
In Arizona, yes.
Yes. In Arizona, yes. plus you have some filing fees to organize. So you could probably say if you had just a ton of experience and were very, very confident that your minimum budget is somewhere around that range.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
go from there up as to what do I need. I helped some folks in some other states to apply, but those applications were 400 pages long.
Mm,
So,
that's a lot.
and
Yeah.
we just found out yesterday it was awarded. So,
Wow, congratulations.
which is terrific news indeed.
Yes, congratulations. Well, I like to work on the money side of things. So I don't, even though I don't do the application side, I like to help with the application fees. And so right now I'm working with a group out of New Jersey. And so, you know, they're still waiting for the laws to, the rules, right?
Right.
And things of that nature. So, um, I think it's really important, to get that money, if you will, for the applicants to receive it, because a lot of the social equity applicants, they don't have the 5,000 or whatever is required, and so I like to help with that. That part I know about.
No, that's it. We're going to get into that just in a little bit on that funding available, but I think the most important thing in just the last minute or so is training and helping and assisting people to be confident.
Yeah.
Mindset. You didn't use that word, but that's what you were thinking.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we definitely have to do that. I have I guess I'll show you. Here's my book.
Hold it up a little higher. There you go. Oh, nice.
Rewriting Your Mental Script, 8 Mindsets That Defeat Self-Sabotage by Khadijah Adams. So this is a book that I wrote to help entrepreneurs and just anybody who find themselves, self-sabotaging, or maybe they just need to change their mindset. I've had a few people that said, I'm not self-sabotaging, but I read your book and I found out I am self-sabotaging. So mindset is key.
I'm going to give you a little plug here because that's impressive. I really, really enjoy that. And I would imagine right now there's a lot of people watching this wondering, okay, where do I get that book?
Yeah, so you can actually go to khadijahadams.com and get an autographed copy of the book, or you can go to Amazon and order the book.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to be looking for my copy now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just, hey, shoot me over your address. You got it. I get it out to you tomorrow.
You bet. Well, so, burn rate, like we talked about, it just means that you're spending more than you're taking in. And since at this stage of our business life cycle, we're not taking in any revenue, meaning we're not selling anything. We're selling a dream, which other than my grandparents, that nobody really paid for that. Here, Sonny, dream big. I remember him saying that all the time. But so let's move into funding, because you mentioned some different things, but and I kind of want to again start at where do I look as a classification, meaning institutional or other things, and maybe you could take that for a minute, because now I'm an applicant. I'm wondering, I put my business plan a little bit together. Doesn't have to be overworked.
Mm-hmm.
I have an idea of how much I'm going to spend,
Mm-hmm.
and I've detailed that out so I can walk into somebody's office or home. Where do I go? What are some of my next steps?
And your next steps for raising capital, you mean raising your application fees? So,
yes. Or maybe I have to look. Where do I look first? Or I was thinking the 3 Fs.
Yeah. So what I didn't hear what you said. The 3 what?
The three, self, friends, and family.
Oh yeah, so
Okay.
you could either go, you could either self-fund yourself if you have the money yourself, you can, in your savings account, 401k, whatever. So you can use that money, and or you can go to family and friends and raise the capital. But one of the things that I like to share with entrepreneurs, so Jeff, is when you go to family and friends, you can't go like it's family and friends. You have to go like it's real business, because this is real business. You have to set expectations. You have to get them to sign a document that states that they understand the risk. And then and let them know, to reassure them that you're putting money in this too, right? And that you both could lose your money, that this application could not even, be chosen, or whatever the case may be. So that there's risk there. And as long as you set those expectations, you're professional in your presentation, and you're speaking to the family and friends, that know you, number one. They know that you're responsible. They know your character, right? They believe in you, and they want to see a profit at the end of the day. So you can go to them and raise capital, but don't you dare go to them like, hey mom, dad, I need 5 grand to get an application. You want to go to them and say, mom and dad, I want to set up some time where we can sit down and have a real conversation. And you want to show them, if you have that pitch deck together, or if you have that business plan together, whether it's a smaller business plan, or just an outline of what you want to do, and then also share with them who's working with you, so that they know that you have experienced people working with you on this application to get this application done, and that it's not all on you, right? So that's what I share with people, with all entrepreneurs that's going to family and friends, because the majority of people that don't raise from family and friends, it's not because that they're, well, in one case it is because they're afraid of being turned down. The next one is that they're just afraid to just ask anyone for anything. And then the next one is that they weren't serious in their presentation, so their family didn't take them serious either.
Wow, those are incredible points, and I'd like everyone to understand that that's from firsthand experience, listening to those that have done this. You mentioned so many things, and I want to put a few of them out there, because some of them are more important than others. But one is, you said, just in general, put it in writing.
That's right.
And then the other, I'm going to expand on those 2 points in a minute. But you said something about making sure that what you said is what they heard, or in my mind, contractually, again, I'm thinking about the
Setting the expectations.
yes, or the liability of the reps and warranties, as we call in the business.
Okay. Absolutely. I mean, you want to be clear about that, because family and friends can get excited. They want to back you 100%. But most people who are not experienced investors, they automatically believe that it's a 100% guarantee, and they don't even look or even know the risk. And so it's important for you to set expectations aforetime and make them aware of the fact that they may lose their money. You may not win the license. And in that case, it's non-refundable. And in that case, you both lose. So it wouldn't just be them losing, it would be y'all losing together.
Right.
Or winning together when it goes through.
I guess you're saying that if you've never been in an argument with a family or friends, then don't put it in writing.
Man, well, I tell you that's a funny joke, but I have to tell you, anyone who knows Khadija Adams knows that everything is in writing. Even when I have volunteers, even when I have interns, you have to set those expectations, and I think putting it in writing states that it happens. If you don't put it in writing, it can happen.
I'll share with everyone with a part of my business as a CPA is I'm involved in a variety of court cases or litigation disputes between the partners. And a lot of it centers around, as you're saying, a lack of clarity in the written word or the lack of the written word entirely.
Yep.
I'm involved in a particular case right now where the contract, I'm not kidding, was written on a napkin in a restaurant. And I'm talking a management agreement, which normally should be 30 to 45 pages long.
Wow. Well,
That's why it's in court.
yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely important.
So you raised some very interesting things about, again, all these documents and disclosures and what's important, I hear you saying, is long before you grab somebody's money, doesn't matter how desperate you are for the money, because when that money changes hands, it changes. If all the agreements we're talking about, you need to get with a lawyer.
Absolutely. 100%. And let me be clear, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not a broker, I'm not a lawyer. Don't play one on TV or the internet. But I promise you, if you guys, you want to have an attorney draw up your documentation, and it's okay to use templates, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But before you give that to anyone, make sure it gets in front of an attorney. Even in front of a CPA, like you, Jeff, because you
Right.
know what those contracts are supposed to look like, what it should and shouldn't say, kind of thing, you know?
Correct. I always advise all of my clients, have an attorney review this, get comfortable. If you feel that, and involve them to the level that you're comfortable with. I think that's most important.
Absolutely. My background or trade is paralegalism. I was a paralegal for quite some time. And to this very day, I prepare all of my contracts, but I run them all by my attorney before they even leave, my email or my possession. And I do that not just because of my experience as a paralegal, but I do that because I don't know everything. And his eyes could capture some things that mine just didn't. And he can put in place what needs to be in place if I miss something out. Because I'm familiar with document prep. He's familiar with the law.
That's right. And important thing, as you mentioned, we can't know everything. And one key, though, with what you're doing is you're very involved in the writing of the document. Everyone must read your documents.
Yes.
It's not like when you go to refinance your house, although I'm one of the guys who reads every single page. This is a little different because in a business relationship, the written word may dictate happiness or frustration.
Absolutely.
And it's pretty easy to be in either one of those. So again, can't emphasize that enough to reach out. You see, there's multiple attorneys involved, not only with Meetup, but you can also see some attorneys that focus in the cannabis area. And that's important also because of the uniqueness of some of the regs. If they don't have that experience, sometimes they'll be calling other folks and it'll take them longer to prepare the documents. So there are ways to narrow your bill down when you're dealing with anybody.
Absolutely. And I found that saves me a lot. Preparing my own documents saves me a lot. And this is not, a recommendation for anyone out there who's watching this to prepare your own documents. But if you have that experience, then that's fine. But still make sure that you run those documents by an attorney, and his or her cost should not be as expensive as, him or her preparing the document for you and, all of that good stuff. But do run it by an attorney before you let it, out of your possession.
right. Other than your application, that's probably your single
Right.
largest expenditure.
Mhm.
And there's really, I mean, you only need a couple of documents at this stage as you move through the process. So that's why we're focusing a little bit on micro loans,
Mhm.
meaning that when we're all done, I think the majority of our participants here are going to be in have a smaller budget, a little bit smaller organization, and I'll call it bootstrapping, maybe a little
Right.
more than these big organizations.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't need $1 million to apply, but if you happen to get it, I'd be more than happy to advise you on how to spend it.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, maybe, Khadija, we have about 10, 15 minutes, and we talked about some different types of funding,
Mhm.
and maybe I'll explain what I did when I was searching for funding, and then talk about some different instruments or as you feel appropriate. But when I was looking to do an application, they were 5,000 a piece also.
Mhm.
In Arizona, it was you could apply for as many as you wanted, but I budgeted actually $50,000 for 3 applications because our costs were greater than.
Mhm.
Meaning, law firms were not familiar. All of these things were different, and a lot of research and time. Well, to make a long story short, the way I structured it is I found some folks and they loaned me the money.
Mhm.
And I put a stipulation in the loan agreement. I said, if I don't get the license, this loan is forgiven.
Yes.
And each person only loaned me $5,000. So it was 5 here, 5 there, and I bundled them all together, and I had $50,000.
There you
So
go.
it worked. And when I started, I didn't know where I was going to get it. I
Yeah.
didn't have the bank account or anything.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm like everybody else. I wake up every day and feed my family.
That's right. I
So
think
the
that's very impressive.
well, thank you. I crafted those documents, and I did run them by legal, but it still cost a little bit more back then because it was also new.
Yeah.
Well, really, my point there is when I'm talking about funding, I'm saying that I used a loan, and then I created a conversion mechanism,
Mhm.
meaning after you get the application, or excuse me, the license, the first thing was I said, oh, this sigh of relief. Oh my gosh, how wonderful, blah, blah, blah. And then I panicked.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, where am I going to get the money? I don't have that money.
You know, they say the how is not up to you. It's really having that having that will, that fire
Right,
to get it. You
right,
know what I mean?
right.
You went to 10 people and got $5,000, or you went to 5 people and got $10,000. However you did it, you didn't ask for a whole lot from one.
No,
See, that's where people get stuck, I think, you know, believing that they have to go to just one person versus, you know what, I can get this 50,000. I can go to 10 people, ask them for 5,000, or I can go to 20 people. You know what I mean?
right.
It really depends, and so I think being creative is really important.
Well, I did a lot of pitches to people. And so these steps that we're talking about, I created a little mini budget and figured out that I need 50 grand. And I mapped out where I was going to apply. And I didn't have the properties. Back then, you were required to actually have property. And oh, by the way, you don't need to sign a lease and you don't need property to apply in this process. So, but back then we had to do those things again, which meant my employer at that point, I was a CFO for a company, was sort of wondering sometimes as I ducked out for an hour or two, but I was there at 10 o'clock at night, so I tried to make up for it.
Yeah,
Notice mindsets.
yeah. It really is about mindset. It really is about knowing that you're going to get the money. That the how is it, and where you're going to get it is not up to you. But making those calls, that's what's up to you. taking action, that's what's up to you. Doing the things that you can do, that's what's up to you. Everything else will work itself out.
Right.
Because if you hadn't picked up the phone or went to go visit and speak to people, they weren't just going to call you and say, Jeff, I had ESP and I read your mind. Here's a check.
Right.
So
Right.
I think being creative and actually putting that action to it, and then knowing that the blow is softer when you go to multiple people to get a little bit, and kind of like your own little crowdfunding, right?
Well, let me share a couple war stories for a moment. Because one would think CPA, I know how to do a budget, I know how to do all of these things, and prepared the documents, and was actually for the larger dollar amount, phase two. Again, I proposed to a couple of doctors, and we had they signed the agreements, they signed I'll call it all the securities, registration docs, all of those wonderful things, and then I couldn't find them.
You could what?
And then I couldn't find them. They disappeared. They wouldn't answer the call. They signed everything and decided that this is 2012. It was much too risky to their careers and profession.
Wow.
And even though all the docs were signed, the check never made it.
Never made it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a hard story. That's a hurtful story too, because you get those documents signed and you think, yay, we're in. And then when the check doesn't come, it's like, damn, Yeah, so that can be hard.
Yes, because they don't answer the phone. They don't respond to a voicemail. And at that point, it wasn't a situation. I mean, a group of doctors, they had the amount. It wasn't excessive, but to us, it was the world. So we
Right.
went to Next, though. That's my real point. We went to Next. Game's over. That's what we
Yeah,
hope the Suns remember tonight. Next.
that's right. Next.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the key, right? Some will, some won't.
Yes.
So what? Next.
Next. So a loan, maybe how is
Mhm.
the loan different than what if somebody just says, I want an equity, but what does that really mean?
So equity is basically giving up ownership of your company. And if you're talking about applying for a license, first, you don't have a company yet. You don't have the license yet. I mean, you could form the company and, of course, give pieces of equity if you want. I wouldn't recommend it. And again, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a CPA or a financial advisor, but the application fee is $5,000, and so if you have a fair credit score and just have to take a loan out, that's self-funding, right? Or
Right.
if you have a 401k that you can take money out of, because you're using it for investment or whatever. But you can also go to individuals for that type of loan without giving away any equity at all, but make arrangements to return that money and pay back that money. Unless, of course, you're going to a nonprofit and someone is gifting you that money. And sometimes you can find investors that are impact investors. And in this case, social equity applicants, right?
Right.
You never know. You may find an investor who, they are impact investors and they only want to see you win. Most of them are pretty much set and they have $5,000 sitting around, or 10 or 15 or 20. And maybe they invest in social equity.
Right. An important point that you put out there is one of the reasons you may give away equity is the person is bringing money and you don't have to pay it back.
Yeah,
If
that's
if you're
it.
if you're willing to roll the dice, put that $5,000 bill into the machine, so to speak, you're in complete control.
Yeah.
When somebody comes in with funding, I'll say this a couple of ways. I think one of the more important things is that I think the money's fairly easy. But what if you win? You want to make sure that the person with the money is helping to improve the organization.
That's right.
So it's not Annie M or Uncle Billy Bob, maybe. Let me see here. Oh, there are some loans, though, as I was pointing out, that they would have a conversion option. Are you conversion? Do you recommend those with your clients, or?
I don't handle that part, but I don't generally, if you're gonna get a small loan like that, I wouldn't recommend it. Not a
Right.
small, tiny loan like that. I mean, if you're talking about, 100, 200, 300, $500,000, $1 million, something like that. But $5,000, I personally wouldn't do a conversion loan to ownership.
Right. And a conversion loan for everyone is that it's a loan, just like a loan
Right.
for your car, but at some point in the future, the person who you owe is
Mhm.
allowed to convert that loan, a conversion, into an equity position in the company.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I wouldn't recommend it, but I know that it's being done and it
Yeah.
has been done. Okay.
Right.
And so just FYI, I wouldn't be given a lot for just $5,000, even though they helped in the process of the application. In my opinion, the investor is not the opportunity, you are, and so you have to be mindful of how much equity would you give for $5,000, and when will it convert? You
Right.
know, 5,000 is not a lot of money, and you can actually pay that back if you're going to just do a loan, in my opinion.
Yeah. If all they're bringing is money, I like to say that getting money is not the solution to the problem. The problem becomes when you have the money, how you do it, how you apply it, how you use it effectively to grow your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And listen, Jeff, you may know of a way that the loan can convert to ownership that grows the company in an effective way. I just believe that it's a $5,000. It's not a lot of money.
Right.
So if they're talking about adding in more once you receive the application, that's a totally different conversation.
I'm working with some folks, qualified applicants, as you say, um, that need some assistance in the app process, and also um, once an application is awarded, I can access the capital. So I bring a little,
Mhm.
I bring a little different to the formula, as yourself and your experience and background, and I'm sure you're assisting others that the same thing. You're a significant experience coming to any management team.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And you bring a lot to the table, Jeff, and I commend you and Caleb and what y'all been able to do in this industry. Um, you know, what we bring to the table and what I bring to the table is really, the business, the planning side of it, the branding side of it, the actual rollout, as well. So I just think it's really wise for social equity applicants and whomever it is that you're working for. They're definitely in the right place.
Right. Well, thank you. We're about out of time here, and I've been very much enjoyed uh, the sometimes technical topics, and I think you've provided everyone just some incredible insights into the process, and been a great resource. So thank you very much.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me. I hope that I helped.
Yes, you did. Okay.
Thank
Well, we'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Okay.
Jeff.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.